Hi everyone, my name is Syntactic, and today we are going to discuss about ambiguity or syntactic ambiguity. Have you heard about this one? If you don't, let me discuss it together right now. So right now, let's break down several main discussion that we are going to discuss today. The first one, we are going to talk about the definitions of ambiguity. What is it? The second one is about how ambiguity leads to misunderstanding. The third one is about the different form of ambiguity, and the last one is about the example of ambiguity itself. Well, so without any further notes, let's jump into the main discussion of these materials. The first one is about the definitions of ambiguity. So before I'm explaining about that one, I have a picture right here, so let's observe the picture together. So there are two people, the man and the woman. The man said, call me a cab. So in British, cab means a taxi. And then the woman respond by, okay, you are a cab. So is it the suitable response that the man wanted from the woman, or is it the appropriate response that the woman should give to the man? Let's break down several interpretation or several meaning from this utterance. So there are three possibilities as the interpretation of meaning from beside picture or the picture that you have seen from the slide. The first one is the man actually instructed the woman to get him a taxi, because as what I stated before, in British, cab means a taxi. The second one, the man wanted to be called as a cab, so that's why the woman respond by calling the man as a cab. And the third one, the man wanted to meet with someone whose name a cab, so he instructed the woman to call his friends whose name cab. There are so many interpretations that arise just from a single sentence in an utterance, just based on its content. So right now I'm going to explain about the definition of ambiguity itself that we can take from those examples. So based on the previous example that we've discussed, that there are so many meaning that can be found and can be interpreted from just a single sentence in an utterance or in a conversation. So it is actually an ambiguity. Furthermore, based on Wikipedia, syntactic ambiguity or ambiguity in syntax, also called structural ambiguity, is a situation where a sentence may be interpreted in more than one way due to ambiguous sentence structure. So the ambiguity arises from two things. The first is the relationship between the word in a sentence. So it's the correlation between the sentence that make it can be interpreted as more than one interpretation of meaning, and it is not like in lexical ambiguity where only one word that can make it ambiguous. The second one is the sentence structure. If we create a sentence where it's not perfectly or punctually grammatically correct, it also can lead into the ambiguous meaning and can create more than one meaning, which can lead to misunderstanding. Right now, we are going to discuss about how ambiguity leads to misunderstanding. As what I have mentioned before, that there's so many interpretation of meaning caused by ambiguity itself, which can lead to misunderstanding. And here are several reasons of it. The first one is because of the result of poor word choice, because we chose so many words and we couldn't choose the perfect and punctual diction that is literally can be understood. So there are so many interpretation, or it can make the listener unable to understand the meaning of what we conveyed. The second one, there are more than one, or there's lots of meaning that is connotative rather than denotative in a sentence. It also can lead to misunderstanding, because we pick a word in a sentence, or we create a sentence where it contains so many unliteral things that can make the listener unable to understand it literally, so it can lead to misunderstanding, of course. And the last one is if we couldn't figure it out how to create a sentence grammatically punctual, or if we create a sentence that is not properly constructed and we are not following the grammatical rules, it can also lead to misunderstanding because it can create more than one sentence and it can be interpreted differently by so many people. So it can contain the misunderstanding during the communication. Right now, we're going to discuss about different form of ambiguity. So as you can see on the screen, ambiguity can be divided into two. The first one is global ambiguity and the second one is local ambiguity. Global ambiguity is the sentence where it has at least two distinct interpretations. It means that even we read all parts of the sentence, or even we try to figure it out the sentence by observing each and every single word, it is hard for us to understand literally the meaning of it, and there will be so many interpretations created by those sentences. And the second one is local ambiguity, is actually a sentence that contains an ambiguous phrases but has only one interpretation. In local ambiguity, normally when we read a sentence, we can easily understand the meaning because at the end of the sentence, usually there is an extension that can explain the whole sentence, which can be interpreted punctually as what it is. So in global ambiguity, it is hard to find the interpretation, the perfect interpretation, because in that sentence, there are no more extension that can explain the sentence itself. Meanwhile, in local ambiguity, normally it is easy to understand the meaning after we read the full of the sentence because there is an extension that can explain the sentence itself. The last part is actually the example of ambiguity. I provide you two examples here. The first one is the pig is ready to eat. So there are two meanings that can be interpreted by that sentence. The first is the pig is ready to be served as a course during the dinner party or the party. Second one is the pig is ready to be fed. And then the second example, Mom said on Tuesday she would cook the rice. There are two interpretations that can be arise from this sentence. The first is Mom told her son or daughter that she cooked the rice on Tuesday. And the second one, the rice will be cooked on Tuesday. Well, so that was my presentation regarding syntactic ambiguity. So let's see you on the future videos.